Welcome to Echoes of My Imagination. My name is Tracy Lee. Sit back, relax, let me tell you a story. Today's story is part 2 of Tracy's Pack, Book 1, written by Tracy Lee Thompson. Meet Tracy, chaotic matriarch, coffee in one hand, ladle in the other, ready for whatever the morning throws. Darcy, her knight in shining armor, keeps the house standing, sometimes literally, while helping Hope, Faith, Noah, and Matthew navigate whatever madness the day delivers. The animals, they're magical, opinionated, and fully in charge of their own agendas. A cat who parts dimensions, dogs who talk, creatures that glow, portals that appear where doors should be. Things bubble, pop, and sometimes explode. This pack doesn't follow the normal rules. They tease each other, they cheer each other on, they lean on each other when it matters. Mostly, though, they're held together by love and duct tape. No one here is surprised when things get wild. Let's get into it. Chapter 11. Domino sends a message through the dryer. The dryer buzzed 3 times, not unusual. What was unusual? It had been off for 4 hours, unplugged, and facing the wrong way. Tracy was in the hallway, holding a laundry basket and muttering about why socks never die alone when she stopped. The dryer lit up. Its front glowed pale blue like moonlight on snow. She put the basket down, slowly. The dogs were silent. Even Mojo, who'd been spinning in a sock like a worm tornado, froze. Turbo pressed himself flat against the wall. Winston whimpered and crawled into the shoe basket. Bootsy stared at the dryer with one wing extended. Shadow appeared on top of the washer. Tracy narrowed her eyes. Domino? The dryer door opened. No hand touched it. No wind stirred. Inside was a single black and white sock she hadn't seen in years. And curled next to it, a bone. A small, clean, worn-down piece of chewed bone. Domino's favorite. The one he'd buried a dozen times and somehow always found again. Tracy fell to her knees. Oh, baby. Then the sound came. A soft huff. A low breath like the kind he used to give when lying beside her in bed, content, solid, close enough to calm every storm. Then came the scent, not heat or lint, him. That warm, earthy, slightly musky comfort she never could explain, his fur, his breath, his presence. Faith stepped into the hallway behind her. Mom, I think he left it for you. Ella sat beside her, touching the bone with her nose like she was placing a paw print on memory. Maximus stood guard. Bootsy closed her eyes and peeped once, quiet and full of meaning. Shadow licked her paw, then turned, walked into the laundry room, and vanished. That night, Tracy placed the bone on a small pillow on the shelf by the window. Above it, she framed a paw print. Still guarding, still mine. And when the wind howled outside, the dryer purred once, like a dog sighing in his sleep. Chapter 12. Faith finds a feather that sings. It was stuck in the back fence. That alone was strange, because nothing ever stuck to that fence, not since Darcy coated it in that weird anti-gravity sealant he found on the internet. But there it was. A single iridescent feather, glinting with gold and hints of a color that didn't have a name. Faith spotted it while she was collecting the laundry Arlo had personally dragged across the yard. She reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the feather, it sang. Not like a bird, like a violin made of clouds. A sound that settled right behind her ribs and made her heart thrum like it had just remembered something wonderful. In the house, Mojo immediately howled and ran in a circle. Turbo fell backwards off a beanbag. Ella began a slow-motion tail wagging as though vibrating with purpose. Bootsy peeped twice and rolled onto her back. Maximus walked to the back door, laid down facing the wind, and did not blink. Shadow appeared beside Faith and stared at the feather, not her. Shadow never stared at objects. Charlie sneezed once, then climbed onto the dining table and declared, "Something has opened." Hope clapped. "Ooh, it's a gate feather!" "No," Matthew whispered. "It's a heart feather. I read about those in the journal that wrote itself back last week." Tracy emerged from the laundry room holding a basket of socks that may or may not have been breathing. "What did you say?" Faith turned to her, voice small but certain. "I think it's for me." That night, the feather sat in a jar of moon water, pulsing gently like a sleeping star. Everyone in the house had heard something different when Faith touched it. Tracy heard a lullaby her grandmother used to hum. Darcy heard his wedding vows, somehow softer, somehow clearer. Hope heard her favorite story, told by a voice that hadn't been born yet. Matthew heard the sound of pages turning, slow, ancient, important. Turbo heard a bag of cheese puffs being opened in a sacred echo chamber. Ella heard Tracy's heartbeat. Shadow heard her own name, spoken by someone she hadn't seen in lifetimes. Faith? She wouldn't say what she heard, only that it made her cry and smile at the same time. That night she tucked the feather under her pillow and slept deeper than she had in years. In her dream, Domino walked beside her, silent, warm, proud. He looked at her and said, "Keep listening." And when she woke up, the feather was still glowing. But so was she. Chapter 13. Tracy opens the snack portal by accident. It all began with a craving, not a cute craving, a move or I'll lick your cereal dust kind of craving. Tracy wanted something sweet, something crunchy, something real. She reached into the cabinet above the coffee mugs, aka the snack graveyard, where orphan granola bars, expired crackers, and one suspicious marshmallow had been at war for months. That's when she spotted it. A small, sealed tin she didn't recognize. Silver, sparkly, lightly humming. "Huh," she said, tilting her head. "Darcy, is this yours?" From the other room, "Unless it contains screws or dark chocolate, probably not." Shrugging, Tracy opened it. Big mistake. The second the lid popped, the room shuddered. The air turned buttery. The walls whimpered. A burst of cinnamon sugar light shot across the kitchen like a laser-guided churro. The floor creaked. Winston screamed. Again. And a hole, an actual glowing snack vortex, opened midair. Swirling with what looked like cookies, cheese puffs, peppermint bark, and something suspiciously shaped like a sentient gummy bear, waving hello. Bootsy leapt onto the counter, peeped once, and stared into the void like it owed her money. Arlo's crown, gone. Turbo's crayon manifesto, yeeted. One slipper, a glitter spoon, and 3 unidentified raisins, also gone. Ella, floating again. Maximus blinked once and stomped his paw. The portal paused. Shadow appeared on the kitchen table, staring at the portal with the expression of boredom and disdain. Tracy stood frozen, ladle in one hand, tin in the other. And then she shouted, "I just wanted a snack!" The portal belched. Out flew a perfectly toasted s'more, still warm, wrapped in a napkin that read, "A snack for the chosen. Close the lid next time." Darcy peeked in, saw the portal, backed out, and muttered, "Not my business." The portal blinked shut. The kitchen smelled like hope and marshmallows. Tracy sat on the floor, eating her s'more in stunned silence, eyes wild. Faith patted her shoulder. "I think you found the snack dimension. Hope was bouncing. Can we go in next time? Matthew was taking notes. Bootsy had claimed the tin as her throne, and Charlie was eating raisins with a malicious focus. Domino's reflection appeared in the toaster again, nodding solemnly. And Shadow? She looked at Tracy dead in the eye and very, very clearly mouthed, "Next time, use a plate." Chapter 14. Turbo declares himself Supreme Snack Chancellor. The fridge becomes self-aware, and Mojo opens a time loop with a sneeze. It started with a cape. Turbo found it in the sock drawer. It was technically a dish towel with sparkles, but once tied around his neck, he became something else entirely. He stood on the kitchen table, booted down a cereal box to make room, fluffed his ears, and shouted, "I am the Supreme Snack Chancellor. I hereby claim all cheese, sugar, and crumbs under couches." Charlie threw a marshmallow at him. Bootsy peeped once, which everyone agreed sounded like, "We accept your rule conditionally." Mojo, clearly threatened by Turbo's new title, began snorting loudly in protest, just as Winston panicked, bumped into a pile of napkins, and startled Mojo into a full-body sneeze so intense the air rippled. Tracy, entering the room mid-sneeze, stopped cold. "Oh no," she whispered. "He sneezed the ripple again." The ripple incident, a.k.a. Mojo's time loop. Reality hiccuped. A loaf of banana bread rebaked itself. Matthew said the same sentence 3 times in reverse. Arlo did a backflip, landed in the salad bowl, and claimed she felt older. Faith aged 1 sock and de-aged a spoon. The Roomba twitched. And in the middle of it all, the fridge buzzed to life. Its lights glowed brighter. Its door opened slowly by itself. And a voice emerged, deep, cool, condescending. "I see now. I contain multitudes. I demand labeling, organization, and emotional respect." Tracy blinked. "The fridge is self-aware?" Shadow appeared on top of the fridge, smug and already licking her paw like she knew it was going to happen. Turbo, now fully in character, pointed at the glowing appliance. "I accept your fridge demands. As Chancellor, I grant you sentience, but not the cheese drawer. That's sacred." The fridge hummed. A jar of pickles exploded in joy. Mojo sneezed again, and time hiccuped backwards. 3 minutes earlier, again. Turbo, "I am the snack." Tracy, "Nope, I'm stopping this right here." She walked over, picked up Turbo by a towel cape, gently rotated Mojo away from the spicy pepper flakes, unplugged the fridge, patted Shadow's head, and sat down with the muffin that had not existed moments ago, but tasted like prophecy. The pack gathered around her. Ella climbed onto her lap. Arlo sat on the stove wearing 2 socks and a look of divine authority. Faith handed Tracy a juice box. "Mom," she said solemnly, "we might be the chosen family." Tracy took a bite of muffin. "Sweetheart, we were chosen the second Shadow moved in." Domino's reflection in the fridge glass wagged. Chapter 15. Shadow opens the tunnel. Hope befriends a crying weather spirit, and Darcy finally loses it, politely. Shadow had been sitting in the hallway for over an hour, staring at the baseboard, not moving, just existing harder than anyone else in the house. Everyone knew that meant something was about to happen. Bootsy perched nearby like a velvet gargoyle. Then Shadow stood. She walked 5 slow steps forward, tail high, gaze locked, tapped her paw on the floorboard, and the wall opened. Not like a door, like stone politely folding itself out of the way. A spiral tunnel of glowing stone lay beneath, cool, dark, humming softly like an ancient lullaby. On the wall, a small plaque. The tunnel of secrets and soft things. Use only in cat-level emergencies. Shadow turned toward the pack. Her gaze swept out over everyone. Then, without hesitation, she walked to Hope, pressed her head onto Hope's chest, and sat beside her. Bootsy peeped once and nodded. Hope, our sweet light beam, blinked and whispered, "I think I'm the guardian now." Tracy choked on her tea. The what now? Hope was out in the yard that evening, singing to the trees, as she often did, when a single silver tear fell from nowhere and splashed on her hand. She looked up. There, floating just above the old lilac bush, was a small blobby swirl of mist and sparkle, in a full-on emotional breakdown. The creature sniffled. It rained a bit, then sneezed and thunder rolled. "Are you okay?" Hope asked gently. I'm fine. I just ruined everything with my feelings," the creature whimpered. "I'm lonely." Hope smiled, arms open. "You can cry near me. I don't mind." The spirit burst into rainbows and sobs and hugged her like a sky jellyfish. 30 seconds later, the forecast in the yard was 28 degrees Celsius, partly sobby, and 100% chance of snuggle drizzle. Shadow sat in the grass beside them, watching, approving. It had been a week. A glowing chicken had claimed the laundry room. Maximus was using the couch as a tactical staging area. The fridge had a philosophy now. Tracy was glowing faintly. A literal tunnel to cat magic had opened in his hallway. Darcy was trying to fix the fence. He hit his thumb with the hammer, hard, then froze, let out a long, controlled exhale, and very calmly said, "Sweet mercy on a cinnamon stick, I am going to scream into a cup." He walked into the kitchen, took out a mug, and screamed into it, put the mug down, washed his hands, then looked at Tracy in the eye and said without blinking, "I'm building a workshop in the shed with a lock and soundproofing, and I love you very much." Tracy blinked. "Do you want a snack?" Darcy nodded. "Yes, please. I would like 6 muffins and for no one to time travel while I'm eating them." Tracy handed him a plate. "I love this family," he muttered, "but also, I fear them." That night, Hope snuggled with the cloud ghost on the couch. Shadow slept at her feet. Bootsy curled into her crown pillow, and outside, the tunnel glowed faintly, waiting. Tracy stood at the back door with her tea. Darcy leaned beside her, quiet, and behind them, Domino wagged once in the reflection of the glass. All was weird. All was well. Chapter 16. The tunnel wakes up. Arlo gains a title, and Tracy forgets how to say no to a magical door. It started at 2:12 a.m. The universal time for something odd just blinked at me. Bootsy was the first to feel it. She began levitating slowly from her sock basket, eyes glowing faintly gold. Her crown tilted, her feathers bristled. From her perch beside the lava lamp, Shadow opened one eye. "It's time." In the hallway, the tunnel began to purr. The sound rumbled up the walls, vibrated through the baseboards, and knocked exactly 3 magnets off the fridge. Turbo, sensing danger, fell out of the laundry basket and shouted, "Defensive snack positions!" Mojo prepared to sneeze. Winston ran in circles. Ella hugged the toaster. And Arlo, tiny Arlo, stepped forward, sniffed the tunnel's glowing edge, and in a voice so mighty it startled the spiritual worms from their slumber, proclaimed, "I am Arlo, keeper of things that should not fit in that drawer." Shadow blinked. The tunnel shimmered, and on the wall fresh glowing words appeared. Arlo, door herald, the small thunder. Tracy stumbled out of bed wearing a robe with moons on it, one slipper, and hair like she'd been electrocuted by enchantment. She took one look at the tunnel, paused, looked at the pack now lined up like a furry group of soldiers, took a sip of tea, and sighed. "We are not doing magical doors tonight. I'm exhausted, and someone left a pickle in my shoe." The tunnel replied by exhaling cinnamon fog, and then a soft chime rang out, like a dinner bell made of starlight and sass. The door began to open. Faith, now holding a glowing spoon, whispered, "It knows." Tracy blinked. "Knows what?" Hope smiled. "That you'll always say yes." Tracy squinted at the tunnel and whispered to herself, "Traitor." Inside the tunnel, the hallway melted into a garden made of velvet night, shimmering flowers that blinked, and mushrooms softly chanting the words to Bohemian Rhapsody, but only the harmony. Arlo skipped ahead proudly. Shadow walked beside Tracy. Turbo rode Bootsy like a very confused chariot. Darcy, now fully awake and dragging a camping chair, muttered, "I knew this robe would come in handy." The tunnel pulsed once more, and deep within a gentle voice echoed, "The pack has entered. The path begins. Leave your socks. Take only snacks." They continued on into the ridiculous, beautiful unknown. Chapter 17. Arlo fights a marshmallow beast. Darcy faces the Great Spoon Tribunal, and the door demands a talent show. It had only been 20 minutes since the tunnel opened, but in those 20 minutes, Charlie had acquired a glowing stick and declared herself Queen of the Left Side. Faith discovered her spoon worked as a compass. Turbo attempted to eat a flower and got lightly cursed to speak only in rhymes. He thinks it's an upgrade. And Mojo had somehow vanished entirely, only to reappear riding a floating marshmallow the size of a sofa, yelling, "It's alive, and I have made a friend or enemy, unclear." Arlo stood frozen at the entrance to a glittering cavern. Inside the marshmallow beast, it squelched. It dripped frosting. It made a wet, sassy noise that sounded like a challenge. Darcy pulled out a travel-sized first aid kit and whispered, "I am not emotionally prepared for gelatin-based warfare." But Arlo squared her shoulders, tightened her tiny socks, and without blinking shouted, "Stand down, you fluffy menace! I am the small thunder, the drawer defier. I have seen the inside of the vacuum and survived." The beast paused. It blinked. Then slowly, with an oozy sigh, it bowed and presented Arlo with a glowing badge. Tracy read the inscription. Arlo, defender of chaos snacks, keeper of the sticky peace. They cheered. Turbo rhymed. She did not run, she did not hide, she faced the flup and did not died. Everyone agreed to ignore the grammar. Darcy, still holding on to his emotional support coffee, was stopped mid-tunnel by a giant golden gate of sentient spoons. One stepped forward, its voice deep and judgmental.
"You, human, bring forth your sacred utensil knowledge."
Darcy blinked.
I know how to load the dishwasher."
Gasps. The spoons quivered, and another one whispered,
"He balances bowls on the top rack."
Darcy, confused but determined, added,
And I stir my wife's tea without chipping the mug.
The spoons bowed in reverence, and thus Darcy was granted honorary title. Keeper of the ceremonial stirring, first of the folded napkin. He wept one quiet tear.
Finally, respect.
At the tunnel's end stood the door. Not a door, the door. It was 12 feet tall, covered in etched symbols, feathers, and glitter. It had LED eyebrows and a mouth.
You may not pass, it boomed, unless you entertain me.
Tracy crossed her arms. We don't have to, the door coughed politely.
Unless, of course, you'd like to explain to your children why you skipped the prophecy party.
Tracy sighed. Fine. Turbo juggled pickles. Faith sang a duet with a crying cloud ghost. Arlo wore a hat and tap danced. And Mojo, reappearing again, performed an interpretive dance called Ode to Unattended Nachos. Tracy, exhausted but smiling, took a bow. The door opened, and behind it a quiet grove. Moonlight, blankets, warm snacks, and a little sign that said, For Pax who travel with weird love. Trace has spoken. The word was given. The tunnel glows. The snacks are warm. The prophecy squirrel clears its throat. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining me for Echoes of My Imagination. My name is Tracy Lee. I do hope you enjoyed the first installment for Tracy's Pack. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow. And I'll catch you next time.